Welcome to the Dream Power Show, where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weisman.
Welcome to the Dream Power Show. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weisman, the Dream Coach. Welcome to life, everybody. You might think that seems like a silly thing to say, but is it really? When we're born, we don't know any better. Life is right in front of us, and we face it head on by living in the moment and go with the belief that everything's going to be okay. But life doesn't often turn out like that, does it? Some of us get hit with the reality button when we're young and have to face obstacle after obstacle until we wonder, is that all there is to life? Some of us live lives that get better and better until one day something happens that puts us in a tailspin. We don't know how to deal with that. Then there are those remarkable people who find reason to find silver lining in life, despite the bad things that happen to them. And I have the honor to speak with several of them today. They're featured in the new book, Crappy to Happy, Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy, which is spearheaded by my friend and amazing dream worker, Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos. And she's brought with her two men I'm excited to meet. James Redfield, who wrote the foreword to the book, is the internationally renowned author of the profound work, The Celestine Prophesy, and Dr. Bernie Siegel, who is a prolific author, revolutionized cancer care, and has devoted his life to empowering patients to take control of their health and their lives. Welcome, all of you, to the Dream Power Show.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nice to be with you.
I have to tell you, the first story, two things just popped right into my head, from crappy to happy. While I was in college, I received 1 C in 4 years. So I didn't graduate with the highest honors because of that one grade. And it was in creative writing. And I have to tell you my sense of humor. See, how do you go from crappy to happy? When I had a New York Times bestseller, I wrote to the college, Colgate University. I said, if you just raise my grade to a B, now that I have a bestseller, I'd have summa cum laude, high honors and graduating. I did it as a joke. I thought they'd laugh, but I got this big, serious, multiple page letter from one of the faculty telling me that you can't raise grades after you graduate. And I felt sad for them. Instead of laughing, at what I wrote, they sent me this serious letter. And the other is literally a quote from one of our kids. Imagine opening your emails in the morning and it said, life sucks. Most people suck. And if you wake up one day and the world's beautiful and everyone loves one another, you're dead. I thought that was, I loved it. I mean, he's got a good sense of humor. I know I don't have to worry about him. But, people need to keep the child in them alive. And I act like a child, and that keeps me happy. So when people say to me, how are you? I say, don't ask. I have so many problems. Why do you bring them up? And then they look at me like, oh, God, I don't want to talk to him. But what I tell people is, next time you see me, say, you're looking very well today. Well, I walked into a store the other day and a new cashier said, how are you today? I said, don't ask. I've got a lot of problems. I don't want to go through that in my mind every time. And everybody in the store was like, what's wrong with him? How rude can you be? And then an old-time employee of the store came out of the back and saw me. And she said, oh, you're looking very well today. And then the whole store burst out laughing. And I said to them, see how good it feels when you hear that? And last but not least, I don't want to use up the whole show, was when people learned they had a few months to live and they went home and did what felt right. A lawyer quits his job because he always wanted to be a violinist. See, he lost his life making his parents happy. He who seeks to save his life will lose it. A guy said, I want to die in the mountains of Colorado. It's beautiful. So I'm moving. a multimillionaire, said, "I'm canceling the dress code at work." Because when I met him at an event, I said, "Why you dressed like that?" He said, "When they tell you you got a few months to live, you cancel the dress code." And his wife got him to buy the house he always wanted on the ocean in Miami. He lived for over 5 years. When I called up to ask the family why I wasn't invited to the funeral of the guy out in Colorado, he answered the phone. This is a year later. These people were supposed to be dead in a couple of months, the most. And he said, "It was so beautiful here, I forgot to die." And last was a lady who wrote me and said, "I was told I had a couple of months to live, so I bought a dog, I put it in the backyard wildlife habitat, I laughed more, I took some vitamins," and her letter ends with, "And I didn't die, and now I'm so busy I'm killing myself. Help, where do I go from here?" I told her to take a nap. And, but, you know, that's what's convinced me. Your body gets the message too. Monday morning, we have more heart attacks, strokes, suicides, and illnesses. So that tells you what it does to you, and it's crappy to get up on Monday. So don't wait for a disaster to find happiness.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, you bring up such an important point, which is the role that laughter takes in our lives. I mean, if people laughed more, it just elevates our energy and just makes us feel great. And like you said, it actually keeps us alive.
Right.
I want to.
Let me interrupt a minute on humor, because my wife did stand-up comedy, like Henny Youngman, one-liners. And one night, instead of getting in the audience and taking her seat when she took the stage, I stayed up there because it was an awkward climb down. And I could see the improvement in the physical appearance of the audience. Everybody's sitting up straighter, smiling. And at the end of the night, she would always get more thanks than I did. I mean, she'd get them to laugh for 15, 20 minutes. I would talk for 2 hours, and more people would go over to her and say, "Thank you." And laughter improves your face value. He who laughs lasts. And laughter is contagious, so be a character.
Mm-hmm.
That sums it up.
Very much so. Well, James, I want to direct this question to you. What tends to make humans actually act in the opposite way, wallow in our pain and portray ourselves as victims?
Well, it's an interesting question. And I really think that we get in a habit early on in childhood. It's well known in psychology and especially the psychology of spirituality, that what happens is that we hang on to a certain style in life, and sometimes it's safer. People feel like it's safer to always be guarded and complaining, and there's not enough, and I don't know what to do, and other people aren't saving me. People fall into habits, and they're always ego habits, and breaking through to that is something that I think we know very well how to do. I think the human race has reached a time, the insights have come in a way that more and more people allow themselves to be guided in life, allow themselves to be resilient through finding, as you said, the silver lining. And it's certainly my thinking, and I think we each can prove to ourselves that if we allow ourselves to be objective about the brick walls we hit in life, right, and really look for that silver lining, and it may not feel like a silver lining. It's very often a lesson. But if you believe in synchronicity, and all of us have these synchronicities, these mysterious coincidences that feel like they're leading us forward in life. And if we really fall back on that, so that we can say, okay, well, we have to every happening is a possible synchronicity. There's a lesson in it. There's an opportunity in it. And even the ones that hurt. I remember when we were getting ready to self-publish the Celestine Prophesy, because that's, we didn't have a publisher. We had publishers, but it was going to take too long. They wanted to wait 2 years, and I felt like the Celestine Prophecy was very, very timely. So we just tried to create a small publishing company. Of course, I needed to find investors. We found one investor, and that was our solution. And so we jumped right in, printing books, spending money like crazy, and all of a sudden, that investor completely pulled out. So just took off. Never acted on his commitment at all. And it was like, what does this mean? Does this mean that I was just in a pipe dream about how this book could be successful in the world? Did it mean that I made these horrible decisions along the way, poor strategy? All that went through my head. But I also knew that there's a blessing in disguise there somewhere. And what we did was we just opened the network back up. Somebody came in as an investor, and all of a sudden we had all the money that we needed. And interestingly, we find out that our former investor was under indictment for swindling people out of money. So, it was a complete silver lining that made us go in a different direction, still pursuing the dream. So, it's hard to do. But if you believe in synchronicity, these mysterious coincidences that are waiting to allow you to step into some destined mission or destined way of helping people, there are going to be synchronicities that open up, and there are going to be happenings that it's tough to make into synchronicities, positive synchronicities. But I think that's the challenge that keeps the flow going.
Let me add, none of this is new. I mean, what Jung said was the future is unconsciously prepared long in advance, and therefore can be guessed by clairvoyance.
That's right.
And what I found was, in all my travels and meeting wonderful people, it's what their parents said to them. We all had the same parents. They loved us. My mother said, Ma, I had a horrible day. God is redirecting you. Something good will come of this. That was not what I wanted to hear from my mother. Norman Vincent Peale said to me, my mother said, Norman, if God slams one door, further down the corridor, another will be open. Mom, I need to know what decision to make. Do what makes you happy. Aren't you going to help me choose? Do what makes you happy. So I spent a lot of time in my bedroom talking to God, because I said, my parents are no help, and I always thought if somebody comes in and says, who are you talking to? And I said, God, then they take me to a psychiatrist. But it worked. And the last was, how do you utilize money? And my father said, one of the best things that happened to him was his father dying when he was 12 years old. I said, you had a disaster, because he died of tuberculosis, uninsured, 6 kids and a wife were left. He said, no, it taught me what was important about life. So what did he use money for? To help people. It made my mother nervous. But because she'd say, they'll never pay you back. He said, that's not the point. I'm just trying to help people to survive. And I know that's like one of my genes, because it's hard for me to not help people. But he also said an important point that people need to remember, because one day, I got married when I was still in college. I didn't have a penny. And I said to my father one day, I just feel so guilty asking you for help all the time. He said, don't. If I don't want to help you, I'll say no. And that's something people have to remember also.
And I want to bring the subject back to the idea of synchronicities. This is something that I learned about when I was learning dream work, and it made me aware of how important synchronistic moments are in our life. And Bernie, I understand that there are a lot of synchronicities that help you deal with, that most profound tragedy, the death of your beloved wife. So you talk about that?
Well, what I've learned is what dies is the body. I mean, I've had many experiences in my life, including as a 4-year-old, a near-death experience. But what has been so amazing since my wife died is she's gone. I miss her body, but her spirit is with me. I mean, I have had, as I say, experiences. Numbers are an important part. My wife was born on 9/9, so I'll give you one example. 9 months after she died, my heart started beating irregularly. And that also, to me, made the most sense in a mind-body way. The person I love dies, what organ in my body is showing the problem? But I went to the emergency room, and as I walked in, a voice out of the back yells, "Put him in room 9." As soon as I heard that, I thought, oh, my wife's watching over me, it'll be fine. They said, "We can't find a room for you in the hospital upstairs." This is at Yale. So you have to spend the night in the emergency room. I realized why the next day. "Oh, we got a room for you." "What's the room number?" 819. And 8 is a symbol for new beginning. Then I've got a wristband on, which identifies me as a patient and the event that's going on. All the numbers that identify me: 18996633. And all the other numbers added up to 9. It could be a 5472, but I've saved all the wristbands. Every single time, everything adds up to 9. The other is we were married on, well, I can hold this up. I don't know that you can see very much, but there were coins in there. Why would I save them? Oh, and the picture of my wife on the other side. See, I got her right over my heart. I started finding a dime and a penny everywhere. And we were married on the 11th. And when I say everywhere, a bird bath, the checkout counter in the store, when you park the car and go around to the trunk to get something, there's a dime and a penny on the ground. It's been unbelievable. There are signs everywhere. And one last mystical thing, because last winter I said, my gloves are a mess, I need a new pair of gloves. I'm talking to my wife, okay? And I go to Stop and Shop, park, and I'm also often told, go into that space. So I park, that's where I'll find coins, or this day, I go in, I shop, I come back, there's a pair of gloves lying on the ground next to the driver's door. Explain that, please.
I know, and these are the things that help us deal with the tragedies in our life and enable us to go on with our lives. And one of the other things that help us, I know it certainly helps me, are dreams. And I know dreams play an important role in all of your lives. Kat, I'm going to direct this first to you, and then James, I'd like you to talk about this too. Why should we pay attention to our dreams?
Well, like Bernie was saying and James was saying earlier, our dreams deal with synchronicities, and also through the sacred dream doors, we can connect with our deceased loved ones, like Bernie was doing with his deceased beloved wife. And so by remembering our dreams, and sometimes when we connect with our deceased loved ones, it's impossible to forget them because, we suddenly have that joy. Being able to see them in our dreams can really help to chase away the grief. Suddenly we're not alone anymore in our dreams. Suddenly we see them again. They look great. They look young. They're in their prime. Let's face it, nobody wants to die and go to the other side and still be old and decrepit. We go right back to our prime. We look great. We're dancing. Our pots, our little tummy pots are gone. We're like hot. again. And so when we go back to our loved ones, it's like saying, hey, look, I'm happy, I'm not in pain. And James was talking about some of us have the habit of connecting with our id, and we're complaining. And so through our dreams, we can see that that person has changed a habit to a degree, because suddenly there's nothing to complain about. They look great, they feel great, they're happy, and it brings us inner joy. And we carry that joy with us throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, because we realize there is life after life, and love never dies. And those stories are brought to our consciousness throughout the book, Crappy to Happy. I mean, going from the crappy, the really, really crappy low of losing a loved one, to the really happy high of realizing they're not dead. Love never dies, and they can come back to us in our dreams.
Absolutely. And James, how have dreams affected you?
Well, dreams, I've always dreamed a lot. In fact, probably my first exploration into the mystical was, what are dreams? And the literature's out there. It's so many people do dream interpretations, and they do it a little different way. The one I like is, Bernie mentioned Carl Jung, and Carl Jung, by the way, coined the term synchronicity, right? He also founded the true human potential movement, which is looking at in a more logical way, and in a much more quasi-scientific way at religious experiences, and all those things. So what we know, what is integrating into the society is this long discussion of the human potential movement. The insights that I talk about are really conclusions from this long, really great exploration into the human potential. But Carl Jung also had a way of interpreting dreams, and I really love this way. Dreams very often are, if they're not perfectly clear, they're all somewhat symbolic, right? So the way he'd like to suggest that people interpret their dreams is to take the plot of the dream, and it may be garbled, but it'll have a plot. You may be running into a person that's chasing you, or you may be chasing another person in the dream, right? And he would say, well, just superimpose that plot of the dream onto your real life, and ask the question, who, in that case, the question would be, who are you running from? Who in real life are you running from? Is it a person? I mean, is it somebody you know? Is it something within you chasing yourself? There's just so many ways to do that, to explore dreams at a different level. I think my own personal belief is that every night we go into the afterlife dimension and sit down at a big seminar about our lives. And we draw conclusions, some of them, but getting back into human reality, they get slightly garbled and are really symbolic, But they're definitely synchronicities in that they're bringing us information that could help clarify something in our life. And very often dreams will point out in my life, in my experience, and others that I know, how to come back after a shock, after a collapse of one of our dreams, or whatever it might be that has knocked us out of our flow. It's sometimes pointing out, dreams are sometimes pointing out where that silver lining it is, and it's always an adjustment. in my view. Every time we hit a brick wall, it calls for an adjustment, and finding that adjustment and really having faith that you can find that silver lining is the key to me, because we've all hit brick walls in our past, but what happens is that we've also successfully navigated that in our lives, and keeping that faith that we can do it another time, because these things happen. It's part of growth, human growth, on our journey. And but anyway, dreams are a big part of that, in my view.
So true. I mean, they have so much to
Bits for
show
people.
us. I'm sorry, Bernie, go ahead.
God speaks in dreams and symbols. So when you turn your mind off, that's why you need to go to sleep. I called myself a Jungian surgeon. I talked to people when they were under anesthesia, and the anesthesiologist thought I was nuts. But patients would wake up and talk about what they heard during the operation. Okay, on the funny side, I have to tell you, is Frank Sinatra was singing "Why Not Take All of Me?" And the patient said, "Is everything all right down there?" I said, "Why are you asking? Listen to the music." So I learned to be careful what songs I played as background also. But I was changed by drawing a picture for Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, because she said immediately, I drew an outdoor scene. "What are you covering up?" I said, "What do you ask that for? You used a white crayon on a white piece of paper. You added a layer." See? And then, why is 11 important? Why did you ask me that? You drew 11 trees. And everything she asked me had meaning. And I thought I just drew an outdoor scene from my imagination. And it was amazing to me how important and significant, including colors. The rainbow that you have behind you is your life in order. And that's what people need to do. Solzhenitsyn uses the term about self-healing as a rainbow-colored butterfly. You transform your life, you go from crappy to happy, you put your life in order. The rainbow and the symbol of change is the cocoon, the butterfly bursts out. It takes work, but here you are. So all these things are not coincidences, and people need to understand that. And don't be afraid to draw a picture. I always say, who should I marry? What job should I take? Draw your possibilities and look at it the next day, and you'll see. And last but not least, when you lose a loved one, I learned that too. One of my little books is Buddy's Candle, because what I learned was, after my father died, I was involved in grief, accepting my mortality. I mean, it was an unhealthy way. And to make a long story short, you go up to heaven and there's a parade of fathers. They're all carrying a candle. I said to the angel who took me up to heaven, "There's a guy coming with a dark candle. Oh, go light it for him." I run up and it's my father. "Dad, your candle's out." He said, "They light it for me, but your tears keep putting it out." And what a whammo that was for me. Stop grieving. And then your father can be happy and you can be happy. Yeah.
Wow, what an important, powerful message to end this with. I have so many more questions to ask, but we're just about out of time. So, Kat, the final one comes to you. How do we find out more about the book and where to get it?
Kat, we're all going to run out of time, so enjoy your lifetime.
Right, Bernie, you're absolutely right. And Deb, to answer your question, believe it or not, Crappy to Happy is #1 on the Amazon bestsellers list. It's on Amazon. It's on my website, Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos, or you can just type in The Queen of Dreams and I'll come up. You can go there. And James Redfield, I think it might be on yours too. Do you want to give the audience your website?
Yeah, it's CelestineVision.com. They're already talking about it in our community. We have an internet community now, and that's fun. But it's yeah. I really recommend the book. I want to say that out loud because it's really a great set of techniques and ways to make the big comeback, and we all have to do that from time to time.
And Bernie, I know it's on your website as well, because Patricia, I think, made sure it went up there. The publisher and co-author of the book. What's your website again, hon?
BernieSiegelMD.com, and Siegel's Siegel.
So Debbie, it's on all of our websites. We're really happy it's out. It was a work of love. It really was. We got great stories. We've got Bernie's story in there, and he's talking about his beloved Bobby when he lost her and all these synchronicities he was talking about. And James Redfield's foreword is unbelievable. It is. I mean, when I read that, I was like, oh my goodness. So thank you for having us on, Deb.
Speaking with authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, and Kathleen O'Keefe Kanavos on how to go from crappy to happy. We'll be right back with our next guest. Who are you? Who are you really? Are you living the life of your true passions, your dream life? Or are you living a life dictated to you by your family or society? One reason I was drawn to dream work is that I truly believe it helps us discover who we really are. And if in that process we come to realize we're not comfortable in our own skin, dreams can give us guideposts on how we can connect with our true selves. My guest today, Temple Hayes, realized early on that she wasn't comfortable with the life that was imposed on her in the small town southern community where she was raised. While she became an outwardly successful adult, she felt as if she were dying a little each day until she received a message that she was loved by God, a message that put her on the path to true healing. Through her work as a spiritual healer, she's now committed through her books and as a role as motivational speaker and radio host to guide others to the impassioned and energized living they want to deserve. Temple has written several books, including the bestseller, When Did You Die?, and is featured in the new book, Crappy to Happy. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Temple.
Well, thank you, Debbie, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's interesting, as you were saying that, I was thinking about, like so many people, I used to say, I'm waiting on my dreams to come true. And I changed it in my own life that my dreams are waiting on me to come true. So that was very moving and inspiring, of that knowing about the law of attraction and possibilities and positive thinking. If something wasn't coming my way that I thought, where are you? I would go back to, wait a minute, I must need to do some inner work on myself. So anyway, I thought you would like that. My dreams are waiting on me to come true.
I love the way you express that. Temple, I actually want to go back to your childhood, because people would say you had a rough childhood, and yet you were able to embrace faith and get to the place where you're now an inspiration to others. What enabled you to, in effect, rise up from the ashes of despair?
Well, there would be a saying in some circles that said I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And, it's like my father said, you're so wise and yet acting so ignorant at the same time. So it was a series of things, but I had an awakening when I was 29 in the middle of the night that said, if you want to live, don't ever drink again. And so that was a big clearing up. I've been sober 33 years. That was a huge thing, because when you're medicated or you're influenced by over sugar or alcohol, you're not clear. Your sponge isn't fresh and vibrant and energetic. So there's an allowance of abuse and neglect and things like that that can be in the way. But when you're clear in your thinking, when you're clear in your awareness, you can say, whoa, what in the world was I, what was I, thinking at the time? due to my early childhood of my mother being taken away because of an accused alleged affair, or my parents discovering that I was with a woman when she was 17 and I was 13 and a half. Those are kind of big deals in a Southern Baptist community. I would imagine they still are. But that being said, because I felt rejected, then I was doing things in my life to reject myself.
Mm. Well, one of the things I want to talk to you about, your sexual identity, because that was one of the things that you repressed until you came to accept yourself. So how did you come to accept yourself?
It was a long road. We were in the 60s. That's like people talking about bullying and things like that, though it's significant, but try being gay in the 60s. We didn't even use the word then. It was homosexual tendencies. So it would be the good friends I would meet along the way that I would say, let's try this out, because my grandmother had told me when I was 13 and a half that she was sorry that I was going to hell, and that she would not be able to have eternal life with me. And so in that level, there was that sensation that would come up even as an adult, even though I knew the people that are in your life are in your life for a reason. I knew what to tell myself. I knew what my mind needed to say. That inner little girl would go, uh-oh, what would Debbie think if she really knew, right? And so just through experience and unconditional friends, but the biggest aha was with Unity, the community of Unity. That's an international, non-denominational community that at 19, a friend invited me. And for the first time in my life, I heard that it's okay if you're gay, God still loves you. That was powerful. That was I don't want to leave. I just want to sit here. I want to cry. I want to breathe all this in. And I need to make sure that what I heard was really what they said.
That must have been a major, major relief to you.
Yes, a major, major relief, because I felt so connected with God. And that was the dichotomy, because as a little girl, I got a calling at 5 that, like, you came here for a reason, or whatever the words were. For a 5-year-old, it was like, whoa, who is that? God's talking to me. So I felt this strong connection with God, not a God I saw on Sunday or heard about or heard somebody yelling at about in religiosity. But it was such a disconnect. Like, how can I be talking to this God? I know that's who it is. And yet they're telling me that God would not only never talk to me, but would never want anything to do with me ever. That was tough. That was tough.
So what was it that you found at Unity that told you that there actually was a different God who can accept you?
Their theology, though they would not say that they have a doctrine, their belief system is that God loves everything and everyone. And who you are is who you're supposed to be. You were born that way. You were sent as you are. And so I started thinking about that differently. Like, I'm sent as a different package of love. I'm here to help people see beyond a package of expectation or what people think, that this is who I am. And so through the years, I had a somewhat of a chameleon. I was out to the people that I knew well and shadowed to the people that I wasn't sure. And that really wasn't for me like walking my talk, because I'm so overt and, energy wise, telling who I am and calling it the way I see it. I didn't do it on purpose. It just took a few steps to overcome that. Oh my gosh, I could die. Somebody could kill me. They're going to put me away in a mental, they're going to come get me in the van, So the huge breaking point for me was when I loved someone that mattered so much that I was never willing to not share who she was in my life.
And did your family accept your sexual identity?
They did then. I was 45, 46 years old.
It took a long time.
It took a long time because I had created a chosen family.
Mm.
I created a chosen family. And again, as a person in my mind, I didn't think about that. If I told you at 35 and you never, had anything to do with me, I would go, well, God, that happens. It wasn't an intentional cover up. And that's what happens with people when they're just not aware. It's the underneath on the subconscious level that's carrying us, that brings up that fear, that brings up that hesitation, that brings up the bump, bump, bump. You're getting ready to be abandoned. They're not going to like you. Bam, bam. And so you kind of crawl in. And the biggest thing for me wasn't whether or not someone knew that I was gay, but because of that factor, I held back my heart a lot. I just was holding back, like, here I am, see me, I'm here for you. I wasn't totally allowing people to get close to me. And I never would have believed that if you told me. I would have probably debated it, and been somewhat argumentative. Me, I live out loud. What you talking about? But on another level, that was absolutely true. But talk about freedom. Wow, freedom. So once I opened that door, because your soul always knows. So once I opened the door and I told a public story, then Lifetime Television called and wanted me to tell a story about my life. And that's the one they wanted me to tell. And after that, I never looked back, because I went, that was on TV. So everybody knows anyway.
Yeah. And do you think it was the fear that just held you back from really telling the world everything about you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's that inner child work. It's that being caught off guard. It's that, wow. It's not easy when your whole family and your whole tribe, that they can't deal with you because of your sexual preference. It's that's a big cause of suicide today. And today people can actually talk about it, and there's lots of support systems and things of that nature. But there's very few things, I think, that compare to the people that birthed you to deny you. That's hard. That's a big deal, especially for years, Debbie, that they called being gay a choice. And they know different now, but not only are you that, but it's like it's a choice. When you're adopted, people don't hold you accountable like, well, that was your choice.
Mhm. Well, unfortunately, there are some people out there who still don't even believe that.
Yes,
There's
of
still,
course.
yes. So
Yes.
it's,
Well, that's karma. They get opportunities and experiences to learn more about it in one way or another, because we're all living out loud, and we're not going away. This experience of life and the evolution of humankind is not going away. And love comes in many different packages. So
mhm. And how did your coming out and revealing your true self affect you in your business and the rest of your life?
oh, just 1,000 different ways. Just there's a saying that says, to the number of times you tell your story is the number of times that you have your healing. And it was just so powerful. And when I would share it with people, and when I shared it with our spiritual community, at the time we had 700 or 800 people coming a week, and I got 3 standing ovations. And of course, many people wanted to call me back in the corner and say, oh, I always knew, or I think what's funny for me now is when someone doesn't know I'm gay. I go, what? Yeah, it was just a great healing. It was just really, really huge. And I just think about the need to be me more than I think about the need to, what will someone think. And I think that that's kind of a thing that happens a lot as people become more mature and comfortable with who you are. But in addition to that, it's like, it's just, you find that the people that you're seeking to like you, you're not even telling the truth about how much you like them in the first place.
Mhm. Uh, you've been quoted by saying that we are dying when we're living. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is in practical everyday life, people being in a job for the paycheck instead of the love of it, people being in a marriage because of a child, because they make up this story of, it's better off for the kids. It's better off for the kids to listen to us argue all the time and fight and, be pretentious than to just, accept that this is the end of our journey together or whatever. People are dying when they're not being authentically themselves. And so there's many examples. People are dying when they say no and they mean yes, or they say yes and they mean no. When they apologize for who they are. And how do I know that? Well, because I was dying too. Now I'm talking an energetic dying. It's like that saying that says, a man lived 100 years and another man lived 1 year 100 times. So it's that we're always shifting and changing. And if we don't go with those changes, if we don't go with those feelings, if we don't go with the new wanting to come in, we're like a plant without fertilizer, or we're like a plant that's being overwatered, blah, 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 because we're just being overwhelmed by the same old things that are not resonating with us anymore. So we drown in that essence and that experience. So that was important for me to share, even though I learned later and was forewarned that people don't even want to pick up a book about dying because most people don't want to accept that it's really going to happen to us. But I was approaching it more from an energetic level, that when you're not being true to yourself, your energy is dying. And you can tell, a couple that will say, we've been together 50 years. And you're like, wow, okay. Are you giving each other energy? Or are you sucking each other's life force out? You know what I mean? So it's all of that. And people, once they get that concept, it's immeasurable. Is this giving me life or is it taking my life? Is this motivating me or is it depleting me? And once they get into the formula of it, they start to see that they start to have a lot more energy in their body if they're willing to make the changes.
Temple, I'm wondering if we do feel like we're dying and spiritually dying or energetically dying, what are some of the ways we can wake up and re-energize ourselves?
Well, the first thing anyone needs to do is start expanding their level of paying attention to their everyday life. The what I'm doing, the where my career is. I used to say I'm a workaholic. Now I say I'm a purpose holic. Right? Workaholic sounds like I need to be fixed. Purpose holic sounds like I'm excited, I'm on purpose, and I love what I'm doing. And it can be subtle. Like, a lot of people, how are you? Oh, I'm so busy. I'm just so busy. I'm so busy. That sounds so martyrdom. It sounds so victimhood. How about I am so creative. You won't believe how full my calendar is. So it's little bitty practical things, but as I stated earlier, once you tune into it, you start noticing, oh, I took the grandkids for the whole weekend. I didn't really want to do that. Next time, I think I'm going to give a different answer, or say maybe not such a long time. So what energizes you and what depletes you? Taking care of your being, of your temple, of your life experience. And more importantly, what I learned on the years traveling, teaching stress management, it's your opinion about what you do. And so if you have an opinion about something that you do, that you're doing it begrudgingly, or you're not doing it full in and with joy, it drains your energy. And so you start paying attention to, in a daily way, you can reflect at the end of the day as you're going through your mind, how was my day? Was I giving energy to those experiences? Was I being present to the people that I were talking to? Or was I just multidimensionally being preoccupied? Did I do that experience just because I felt like I needed to, or because I really, really wanted to put my whole self in? And it just becomes very simple to pay that attention. For me, it was changing the way that I believe about energy. It's that, we don't manufacture energy. God does. We maintain it. We can do things like eating that's good for our body, taking care of ourselves, getting rest, those kind of things. But we don't manufacture energy. The creator does. And so that was a big shift in my life, Debbie. It's when I realized it's one thing to say, change your thinking, change your life. It's another thing to change your energy, and your life will change. And so I always tell the story of, I had a little Yorkie that was dying of old age. And for about 8 months, he was up in the middle of the night. I was cradling him, I was tending to him. And no one would have ever known, because my energy comes from a greater source. And so when you're into that, but people tell stories, it's Monday and they start talking about how they're going to feel on Friday. Oh gosh, by Friday, I'm going to be so tired. Oh my gosh. And it's Monday, and so there's this belief system for people to be energetic. I mean, I run circles around a lot of 30 and 40-year-olds. And when I tell people I'm 62 years old, they go, what? I go, you bet, I'm 62 years old and I'm just getting started, because it's a belief system. And then we do what is necessary for common sense to maintain it.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you that, we're energetic beings,
Yes.
We get it from a higher source, or we get it from just, we are all energy. But I'm wondering, because you say you're so energetic, and you think it comes from the passion you have for what you do, or what?
I think the bigger mission for me is I want to model where I come from, because there's a difference between human law and spiritual law. So I want to represent God well.
Mm.
And so when I told you that, I know you're a healer and powerful human being, I just got God bumps, because I want to model God well. I want to reflect energy and a vibrancy and a knowing and a hope of expectation for this life, that it's only going to get better, and not to live in a struggle really of anything. It's like people said, or said, you don't struggle from sobriety. It's like, are you kidding me? What would the struggle be? I struggled from drinking, of never remembering from one day to the next, and calling my friends and be embarrassed. Like, did you see me yesterday? Because I didn't see me yesterday. Do you know where I was? I mean, that is what you call struggle, is being someone that you're not, So anyway, I have a good time. And I think that a thing for me is there's a couple of things. And I'm a real strong advocate for it now. We are not broken. We're simply not broken. And we're so programmed in our society that if you're different, you're broken. If you have mental health problems, you're broken. If you have this, you're broken. And we're not broken. We are incredible as human beings, designed in this life. And keep your heart open. Don't close your heart because a few people couldn't see you. It's really because they couldn't see themselves.
So what do you do if you feel like you're broken? How do you change that?
Is learning to change your story. Being determined to change your story. If there are no accidents and there are no mistakes, and nature creates itself all in its divine time, then you're part of that. That is you, the collective you, whoever is listening. That is what is true for you too. You want to realize that the only reason you believe you're broken is somebody told you that you are. And so when you start to really look at the system that we have now, and one of the things people say is follow the money. Well, if you follow the money and you train somebody that they're broken, like, they take small elephants and they train them to a rope and a stake. And when that elephant grows and weighs what, hundreds and gazillion pounds, it will still, if they feel a rope tug, they will stop when they could pull up the whole tent. You know what I mean? So that's the way that our humanity and the system that we have lived in up till now, and hopefully it will change, is you start telling someone they're broken early on. You got to have the right scores. You got to do the right thing in class. You got to make an A. You can't make a B. We're already training you that you're broken. And then we're going to add that age thing, you know, that you're going to be older, so you're broken. You're going to have wrinkles on your face where you're broken. And it's where the money is. It's where the money is, because when you live in a place that you're not broken, well, first of all, you save a lot of money because you're not trying to fix something. But the alcohol industry, the smoking industry, the education industry. Oh, well, no, you don't just need a master's now. You got to have a PhD. I mean, that, you know, it's a game. It's such a game. And when you start to shift the way you look at things, you have a whole new awareness, and you just throw your arms up and go, oh my gosh, I was never broken. I just believed a few people that told me some things to influence me and keep me herded, like someone that doesn't think.
Yeah, you know, I think the hardest part, though, is for people to realize that they have that choice. Because I think so many people just sleepwalk through life and don't realize that they're living a story,
Yes.
or they have the possibility of even changing it.
Yes. Yeah. So when you say, you know, how do you know you're broken, or, you know, what does that relate to? You know, it's like, even people will say, well, what if I don't know what I believe? Well, look at your life. If you have supported people around you, they're very supportive, then you know that you're supporting yourself. If you have loving people, then you know you love yourself. If you have critical people in your life, hello, you're criticizing yourself. Because if you don't criticize yourself and you don't live in that head stuff all the time, it will be so unacceptable for someone to criticize you. You just won't tolerate it. So it all goes hand in hand. And you know, there was a song years ago, and it said something about God and man were playing hide and go seek, and the whole thing leads to the fact that God's inside and has been all along. But everybody's so busy looking out here, they went, "Whoa, I missed it." Because if you really perceive yourself as broken, unworthy, not valuable, a part of that comes from traditional religiosity. They're still teaching that same story in 2020, shockingly. You're unworthy, you're undeserving, you're an original sin of some kind, and it's never going to get better till the end of whatever.
Right. Well, it's like if you keep people small and
Yep.
they stay small, then they're never going to realize their magnificence.
Absolutely. Well, you develop tribes then. You develop tribes that will buy your product. You develop tribes that will do a lot of different things. And it's just, again, when you step back, it's very easy to understand. I mean, how many people go to college that don't want to go? I mean, higher education is a perfect example of that. I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm simply saying that most people do it for the wrong reasons. There's something wrong with someone graduating from college and they owe $165,000 in debt
And
when
then
they don't use most of the things they learned in education. I mean, I never cut a frog. I mean, I can't even fathom that. I've never used much chemistry or algebra, but I had to take it. You know what I'm saying? So it's a thing. And people like you and the work you're doing are playing a major part in the awakening of people opening up to the dream that we call this life.
Well, thank you for saying that. And
True.
we are coming right toward the end. So I just have time for one final question. How can people find out more about you and your work?
Well, that's simple. It's my name, my website, Temple, 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 Hayes, Hoyes. And everything is there that will lead to one direction or another. So that was an easy question.
Well, we figure you give one easy question.
You bet. You bet. Oh, I love the rainbow over you too. That's so beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you. It's to symbolize dreams and all the possibilities. We've been speaking with spiritual trailblazer Temple Hayes. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector Weissman saying Sweet dreams, everybody.